Now, the praise for Geronimo Allison is the exact opposite of the criticism that often found its way towards Jeff Janis. Learning the playbook and getting on the same page with Aaron Rodgers is of utmost importance. And also of importance, some off-the-field news. In case you missed it, Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers have agreed to meet with NFL investigators. We'll have more on that. Well, as you watch tonight's game, keep in mind that a full 30% of the players on the Packers roster tonight won't make that final cut down to 53. As expected, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Olsen, Randall Cobb will not play. A mild surprise that receiver Jeff Janis will not play today. Some had thought he might test that broken hand with a club cast on special teams. Tonight, after the game, we'll expect to hear from Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers about being cleared by the NFL in that PED investigation. Reporting live from Arrowhead Stadium, Dave Schrader, Action 2 Sports. The Packers preseason comes to a close in Kansas City, and the biggest headline comes after the game as Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers talk to the media for the first time since the first day of training camp. Their PED problems are put to bed as the NFL clears them this week. Jordy Nelson's return, like his offseason ACL rehab, was not without its hiccups, but after two missed connections in the first quarter, Jordy was on the same page with Aaron Rodgers for a scintillating touchdown in the second quarter. And after struggling on offense all last year, Green Bay showed flashes of the brilliance that helped the unit score the most points in the NFL 2 years back. Davante Adams, who failed to score a touchdown until December last year, snared one in week one on a laser from Rodgers with a defender draped on his back. The offense obviously to blame. When the defense gives up 17 points, you give up nearly 200 yards receiving to one receiver, yet only 17 points. That's a pretty good job by the defense. The offense, it had its opportunities, but every time they seemed to get something going, it was one of those fumbles. It was an inexplicable mistake or mental lapse. I think one that stood out the first drive of the third quarter, Jared Cook on third down gets the ball past the sticks. Instead of taking forward progress, backs up, retreats, and ends up being caught short of the first down. They have to punt. It's things like that that the Packers need to shore up if they want to win the close games this year. Aaron Rodgers, the highest-rated passer in NFL history, has now gone 14 straight games without topping a 100 rating. For perspective, the quarterback once went 13 in a row over that number. But amidst the panic in Packerland, the Packers are insulating themselves with a blanket of confidence led by their quarterback. Well, Chris, the Packers offense is back in business. Green Bay, of course, raced out to that 31-3 lead, and the play of Aaron Rodgers reminiscent of his play 2 seasons ago when he won his second MVP award. Green Bay in that year went 8-0 at home and blew teams out early and held on to win late. That's exactly what happened today. Concussions are a huge deal in today's NFL. Sam Shields missing his third straight game tonight with his concussion he suffered back in week one. And head trauma has dealt a severe blow to star quarterbacks this week. Both signal callers from last year's NFC title game, Cam Newton and Carson Palmer, shelved this week with concussions. Now, Aaron Rodgers has been lucky enough to not have one since 2010, but Rodgers has been running more this year. Already 2 rushing touchdowns after only rushing for 3 total in the last 3 seasons combined. So just how much is Aaron Rodgers running? Well, he has as many carries through 3 games as running back James Starks, but then again, the Packers haven't utilized their backup running back that much this season. We're here in the locker room with Davante Adams, another touchdown catch today. How's it feel to get the offense going early and build a lead? Well, Chris, the Packers came into this game with not just the #1 run defense in the NFL, but they had given up the fewest yards through 4 games in NFL history, 171 on the ground through 4 games, but they gave up 191 against the Cowboys, as rookie Ezekiel Elliott proved he's for real. It's a quick turnaround for the Packers and Bears to play on Thursday Night Football, and as injuries mount, the Green Bay offense would finally get well in the second half anyways. Missed opportunities defined the day. After the Vikings lost to open the door for a tie atop the division, the Packers proceeded to trail the Colts from the opening kick, and a furious finish by the offense could not overcome a seriously slow start. And on the sideline, Aaron Rodgers sensed a lack of energy, and that, more than anything else, was unacceptable. It's worse than the final result was the early energy by the Packers. Aaron Rodgers did not mince words talking about the warts of his offense and the flat feeling on the sidelines during the first half. A furious rally falls short because the Packers hit the snooze button early.
There's no excuses.
And with the Packers in the tailspin, Aaron Rodgers' leadership has come under attack. He's never been a rah-rah, in-your-face vocal leader, but there's still plenty of football to be played. Still 7 games to go to make a playoff push, and in that time, Aaron Rodgers isn't worried about what anyone else thinks.
I'm yawning right now. That stuff is is white noise.
Now actions speak louder than words, and Rodgers has always been a lead by example guy, but with his personal play shaky of late, he knows he has to make a move. The Packers have lost 3 straight games, and their quarterback has turned the ball over more than he's been accustomed to this year. 7 interceptions already this season. He's had no more than 8 in any year since 2010. The Packers' problems apparent in a 4th straight loss, and one that featured 4 straight touchdown drives for the opponent in the second half. The plight of the Packers is not very good right now. The schedule only gets tougher, and Green Bay trails the division leaders Detroit and Minnesota by 2 games now with 6 to play. In Washington, Dave Schrader, Action 2 Sports. As the playoff race heats up, the snow comes down at Lambeau Field. Needing a win, the Packers entered the 4th quarter tied with the Texans before Jordy Nelson took over. He had 3 catches of 20-plus yards to secure a win for Green Bay. One was wide open, one was not, and on a third, he nearly had his head taken off.
They're all great, to be honest with you.
Jordy's 4th quarter score, his 10th touchdown this season in a comeback effort from last year's ACL tear. Nelson on a tear right now. At Lambeau Field, Dave Schrader, Action 2 Sports. Tough as nails as the temperatures drop, the Packers have the 2 longest drives of the entire season after entering the 4th quarter tied. They go 98 yards and 89 yards to score 2 touchdowns to beat the Texans. The Packers smashed the Seahawks 38-10, and this game really wasn't even that close. Aaron Rodgers had only 5 incompletions on a day in which his counterpart Russell Wilson threw 5 interceptions. The Packers have their best offensive game and defensive game, and they announced that they're a contender in the NFC, if they can get in. As for the Green Bay D, they gave up 153 points during a 4-game losing streak, but they've given up only 36 now in their 3 straight wins. At Lambeau Field, Dave Schrader, Action 2 Sports. First things first, let's set it all up, because the amazing finish should have never been necessary. The Packers led the Bears by 17 points in the 4th quarter, despite dropping 2 would-be touchdown catches and bypassing a field goal for a 4th down try early. In spite of all that, and the defense forcing 4 turnovers, Green Bay needed some magic late with the game tied and 31 seconds to go. And with the game on the line, Mike McCarthy dialed up the perfect play, and Aaron Rodgers went and won the game, hitting Jordy Nelson on a bomb for the first time all year. 60 yards and a chip shot field goal later, the Packers had won, taking the driver's seat in the NFC North. Rodgers knows how to make magic happen in this stadium. The Packers have now won 7 straight at Soldier Field, included in that span an NFC title game triumph, that 4th and 8 miracle to make a wild card spot for Green Bay 3 years ago, and now this to even the all-time series with Chicago at 94 wins apiece, with 6 ties thrown in as well. In the 194 meetings between these 2 teams, they're now separated by 4 total points. Green Bay on top there. Don't lie, with the Packers at 4-6, you had them written off too. Green Bay, though, with 5 straight wins, has set up a winner-take-the-division showdown in Detroit next week. It's the 4th straight season that the NFC North has gone down to the final game. But the Packers have won 5 straight. Rodgers has not tossed an interception since that Tennessee game, and on Christmas Eve, he puts up 5 scores, 4 with his arm, 1 with his legs, as the Packers trounce the Vikings, putting up 30 or more points for a 3rd straight game. So just how many big games has Aaron Rodgers played? Well, he's played in 13 playoff games, and this will be his 4th straight Week 17 winner takes the division showdown. Matthew Stafford, the Lions quarterback, he's played in only 2 playoff games, and he, of course, has lost both of those. Back on top, the Packers recover from their 4-6 start, winning 6 straight to win the NFC North. Without a loss since Thanksgiving, Green Bay rings in the new year with resounding success at Detroit in the season finale. 6 weeks ago, Aaron Rodgers said he thought his team could run the table, and now as the postseason begins, the only question is if they can run the table all the way to the Super Bowl. The NFL playoffs are an annual parody party. Want proof? Well, the 4 NFC division winners from a year ago didn't even make the postseason this time around. Only the Packers and Patriots seem immune to those ups and downs. Each has made the playoffs now in 8 straight seasons, and it's no coincidence that those 2 teams have the top turnover margins over those last 8 seasons. Green Bay is plus 14 in turnover margin during their 6-game win streak, and they have not turned the ball over a single time in their last 4 games, the first time that's happened since 1933. After a Hail Mary completed to Randall Cobb, the Packers had scored more points in 4 minutes than the Giants would score all night, and after all 4 wildcard road teams, Rodgers may not have started fast, but he showed his MVP pedigree by not panicking. He stayed relaxed, didn't force throws, had 4 more touchdown tosses today, all again without an interception. He has now gone 285 pass attempts without a pick, the longest such streak of his career, and by the time the Packers kick things off in Dallas next week, he'll have gone more than 2 calendar months without an interception. Dave Schrader, Action 2 Sports. It's true, the Cowboys are the 1 seed, the Packers the 4, and Dallas beat Green Bay by 14 points 3 months ago. But despite all that, the team that has won 7 straight feels like the team to beat Sunday. Mike McCarthy had lost 5 previous postseason games on the final play, but today's walk-off win a perfect way to secure a trip to the NFC title game. Packers must absolutely love to play in this building. After not winning in Dallas since 1989, now they've never lost in AT&T Stadium. They won Super Bowl 45 here. They had the biggest comeback in franchise history here 3 years ago, and now they beat the Cowboys to advance to Atlanta. The Packers are now about a day and a half away from their NFC title game date with the Falcons, and they'll be facing Atlanta coach Dan Quinn, who was the defensive coordinator of the Seahawks the last time the Packers were in the NFC title game. Now, 2 years ago in Seattle, if you'll remember, Aaron Rodgers' calf was a huge issue as it hampered his mobility, but this time around, Rodgers at the peak of his mobile powers. Just look at last week when he scrambled, pirouetted, rolled left, and hit Jared Cook to set up the game-winning field goal. It'll be a much different story than 2 years ago in this NFC title game. Few people give the Falcons the due that they deserve. Matt Ryan came here as a rookie in 2008. That was the same year that Aaron Rodgers took over as a starter in Green Bay. And in the 9 seasons since, these two teams are on top of the NFC in total wins. They've been great, but they haven't yet reached a Super Bowl. The Packers want to keep it that way on Sunday. And the Packers traveled a long and tough road just to reach the NFC Championship game, but in the end they fall short of running the table all the way to the Super Bowl. The ride runs out of gas as Atlanta really stepped on the gas early, building a 31-0 lead, and the hole was a deficit few thought possible against an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. The hole too big, and the Packers season over tonight. This really was quite the ride. The Packers were left for dead at 4-6.
No.
I counted them out. You counted them out. And if they had made this run, won 10 straight and won the Super Bowl, it would have been one of the best stories, not just in Green Bay history, but in the history of sports, not just football. In the end, 8 straight wins, impressive enough, but they can't quite get the job done. The dream ends tonight. The Falcons scored on 7 of their first 8 possessions, including 6 touchdowns. All week, and I mean all week, we talked about expecting a shootout, and it really was shocking to see the goose egg for the Packers in the first half. The halftime score was 24-0, and the 24-point deficit was the largest that Aaron Rodgers has faced during his 9 seasons as a starter. Needing a 9th straight win to reach the Super Bowl, the Packers come up short in this one. The Packers traveled a long and tough road just to reach the NFC Championship game, but they fall short of running the table all the way to the Super Bowl. Green Bay runs out of gas as Atlanta steps on the gas in the title game, building a 31-0 lead en route to victory. That was a deficit no one envisioned ever seeing against an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. A hole too big, and the Packers season over tonight. The confetti falls and the home team celebrates after the game was decided very early. The Falcons scored 10 quick points, and the Packers had a chance to do the same before Mason Crosby missed his first playoff field goal in 24 attempts, and Aaron Ripkowski fumbled in the red zone. It was the first fumble that he can remember. He did not fumble in high school, did not fumble in college, and did not put the ball on the deck in the pros until tonight in the NFC Championship game. In Atlanta, Dave Schrader, Action 2 Sports.